And welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight as we're starting our second night on our relationship series. If you're just joining me tonight, please go ahead and like and share this video and go ahead and make those phone calls to let your friends and loved ones know that we are here. Tonight we're talking about the recipe for building healthier relationships. Recipe for building healthier relationships. All right. Number one, to check your motive. I'm focusing more on the more intimate relationships tonight, and one of the causes of a relationship breakdown when we're looking at intimacy is that sometimes we enter intimate relationships with ulterior motive or motive that aren't aligned with healthy relationships. Oftentimes, if we are immature, we're pursuing relationships with an intent to win. Because oftentimes, if we are mature and we are seeking relationships, the other party most likely is immature, and there's a lot of games and really not a lot of commitment. So, number one, to check your motive. What is your motive behind pursuing or desiring that relationship? If we checked our motive, if we think back when we pursued a lot of the past relationships, we can see that motive a lot of times was the root cause of maybe that relationship failing. So if we can check our motives and keep our motives in check and trusting and not trying to fool ourselves, because a lot of times we lie to ourselves. We think, oh, we're so in love. We're so in love. We just can't live without them. But a lot of times if we check that, we realize that our motives are not intact, guys. So if we want to establish healthier relationships, number one is to check your motive. And believe me, if you have to trick somebody or try to lie to keep them and to keep them on your side, that is a control motive. That's not love. We're trying to control someone and manipulate someone to conform to us. And remember, if you listen to our earlier videos on understanding our thoughts and how the mind operates and the things that influences our mind, then you can better understand what motive is. So before establishing any relationship, that's something that we have to give an account of, and that is ourselves. Because we can't escape ourselves. And whatever we are, we take them into every relationship that we pursue. Again, tonight, if you're just joining us, we're talking about a recipe for building healthier relationships. Go ahead and like and share this video. Go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear your questions tonight. I'd love to hear from you. Number two, work on yourself. It goes hand in hand. Work on yourself. Whatever you are, you can almost bet that's what your relationship is going to reflect. So if you are an abuser, if you are an addict, if you are a manipulator, if you are negative and condescending, you can almost believe that your relationships are going to reflect just what you are. We can't escape us. And that's why it's so important that we build on us. Remember, I'm not saying the other party, because that's oftentimes where our attention goes. We want to fix the other person. It's not about the other person. The other person has work to do on themselves. There is enough work for us to transform and transcend ourselves without trying to worry about trying to fix and control somebody else. So number two, if we're going to have healthier relationships, if we're going to build a healthier relationship, we have to work on ourselves. And I know a lot of times we don't want to hear that because we think that we're all right in the situation. Thanks for joining us, guys. I appreciate you tuning in tonight. We're talking about a recipe to build healthier relationships. And I was saying work on yourself because whatever issues we have, we take it with us everywhere we go. That's why when we jump from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship, that's why they always end with the same issues facing us. We don't escape ourselves. And it's easier for us to look at the other party and say, well, there was something wrong there, there was something wrong there, being critical of the other party. But if we really take a deep look within ourselves, we'll find that all along we were the primary issue in whatever that situation was and the reason why those relationships fail. It's our mindset. And remember, we have to shift and control that mindset. And we can only do that for ourselves. We cannot control the other people. That's not only with our intimate parties, but it's also our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our friends. We can't control them. We can only control ourselves. So we have to work on ourselves and be willing to identify those things within ourselves that are harmful to the relationships that we try to pursue. Number 3, be aware of what your own needs and desires are. I can't begin to think of the relationships that I've had in the past to where I always focused on what the other person's needs and desires was. As mothers, we do that. As wives, we do that. We're always focusing on the needs of the other person. And when we stop to realize, oftentimes our needs are the ones that are being neglected. And it's not to say that the other people don't love us or that they're not concerned about us. It's simply because we have put so much focus and emphasis on appeasing somebody else that we've neglected to even communicate or even to be aware or acknowledge of what our own desires are. Do you know that when you're healthier and more fulfilled and more confident within yourself, your relationships are going to reflect just that? And if you're in a relationship is upset because you tend to your own needs or let your own needs and desires to be made known, then if they're upset with that, something's wrong. Something's wrong with them. Because when you're better and your needs are met, you're happier, you're more fulfilled, don't you know you're going to be able to engage and interact with that person you're in a relationship with that much better? It's going to be that much more fulfilling by tending to your own needs and desires and making sure that they're made known. See, oftentimes we get this false perception that, well, if I communicate my needs, maybe that it's going to push them away. No, if they love you, which I often believe that they do, if they're sticking here with us and they're committing to us, they're going to be receptive for what your needs and your desires are as well. But they cannot read your mind. They cannot read our mind. So we have to be able to communicate our needs and desires. And the only way we can communicate our needs and desires is that if we are made aware of them for ourselves. So that's taking time to focus on yourself, evaluating what you need. Because oftentimes we know, a lot of times we're just running on automatic and neglecting ourselves until we find ourselves at a point in our life to where we realize that we're not satisfied. We've given and given and given, and nothing is given to us in return, we're unfulfilled. And that in return, if we don't understand and be aware of our own needs and desires and being able to communicate that, it breaks down the relationship. But when we can become aware of that and express that and communicate with that and make sure our own needs and desires are met as well, then the relationship is so much better. I thank you guys for joining me. I see some of you just logging on, and I appreciate you joining me tonight as we're talking about a recipe for building healthier relationships. And a relationship is something that we all have, whether we're married, single, whatever the case. If we're parenting, we have relationships. Relationships are formed in everything we do, all walks of life. There's all type of relationships. So if we can conform to this recipe that I've put together for us tonight, then we can establish and maintain healthier relationships. We're up to number 4. Stop comparing your relationship to the relationships of others. It's so much easier to be on the outside looking in, desiring a relationship that we assume that our friends or neighbors have. Everything is not as it seems. Everything that glitters, not gold. I cannot begin to tell you the number of couples that I've seen that appear on the surface to have it all together. And they wear the smile and the nice clothes and just put on this big old front for people. And then they go back to a home that is abusive and a lot of neglect and a lot of disrespect. And yet we envy those relationships because of what it looks like. Do you know the word of life says, judge a tree by the fruit that it bears? That means you judge according to what they are producing. And if the only time people are producing is when they have an audience, there's something wrong with that. Do you realize how many men and women wear smiles? And behind that smile is all the hurt and insecurity and lack of confidence. And yet, you're spending so much time envying that couple or that man or that woman that you can't look in their eyes to see the real pain and the real story behind the smile. We're so fooled. So we see that, and then we go and want to judge our relationship by something that we've seen that's just a facade, a show for the eyes. Do you guys understand what I'm saying tonight? Go ahead and hit that like button and share this video so that others on your timeline can also join in with us. Thank you for your comments, guys. And if you have a comment, feel free to write it there in the comment section. I love to interact with you. We're talking tonight about a recipe for building a healthy relationship. Number 5, be sensitive to the needs communicated by the other party. Be sensitive to the needs communicated by the other party. That means if I communicate to my spouse that something bothers me, then he has to be sensitive that that bothers me, and he has to be willing to make the necessary adjustments so that he doesn't do the thing that irritates me the most. Now, that's not to say that we nag them. That's just saying we've made communication known, we've made you aware, and we have to be sensitive to that. If your spouse or significant other or your child communicates with you that they don't like it when you do such a thing, then you've been made aware of it. Now, to be sensitive to what they've just communicated to you means that you try your best not to cross that boundary that caused them to feel a certain way. You try to respect that. That's being sensitive to what is communicated. And that's not to say that if we're in such a habit-forming mode that sometimes we don't slip up. But when we realize that we've done that thing that they've requested that we not do, that we are made aware of it and that we immediately make the necessary corrections. Immediately. And once we do that and we practice that, it will become ingrained into our healthier habits. It'll become ingrained into our mentality, and we'll be less likely to do those things that frustrate our partner. So we have to be sensitive. So if you're asked not to do something because it bothers them, and they've communicated that with us, or we communicated that with them, then that's what helps our relationships better. Being sensitive to the needs communicated by the other. So whether you're doing the communicating or them, don't assume that they can read your mind. Well, I told them once. And they continue to do it. Sometimes you have to just communicate it and let them know and communicate it without the attitude. Because we know that if we listen to the way our mind and our thoughts are processed, that sometimes attitude shows up with it. So being sensitive means that we're going to be respectful by all means and try to form new habits so that we are sensitive to what we've been asked to do or not to do in the relationship. If you're just joining me, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video. Also, if you have comments, go ahead and leave your comments in the comment section. We're talking tonight about recipes for building a healthier relationship. Number 6, be willing to work as a team. Relationships are not one-on-one. There is someone else involved, and you have to be a team player. One of the most destructive things that can infect a relationship is selfishness. There's so many individual selfish people going into relationships, and that's where the control and the abuse and the manipulation and the condescending behaviors come into play. It's because you went into a team game, a team sport, and you were not willing to work as a team player. To build a healthier relationship, you must be willing to work as a team. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to always agree. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're always going to enjoy the same things. But we know that as a team, we can agree to disagree and keep it moving. And we can compromise. Right? A relationship, there's no room for selfishness. If you want to continue to be selfish, then be by yourself a while. Manipulate yourself a while. Control yourself a while. Treat yourself the way that you're treating the other a while. And see how long that lasts. Probably not very long, right? You're going to soon realize that we can't get through this world alone. Yes, we're happy. And we're happy with Jesus alone and as we're taught in our religious practices. But we need somebody in this world. We need friendships. We need our children. We need our loved ones. Who wants to be around someone that's selfish all the time? And I was one of those. I was one of the most selfish people that I can think of. I wanted it my way, and if I had to manipulate and lie and control to have it my way, then that's exactly what I done. It was my way, and I didn't want to see it any other way, and you just could not tell me. And that's why my relationships failed. That's why I was so unstable in those latter years. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Everything we do is a reflection of who we are within. But when I became a team player and I began to work on who I was as a person, I realized that selfishness really has no place in relationships. Because we all have our own mind, we all have our own will, we all have our own desires. And it cannot be about me all the time. Number 7, you have to hit the reset button. Girl, what are you talking about? Hit the reset button. That means, like our Savior tells us, that when we commit to Him, whatever we've done in the past is forgiven, then that's what we do for our relationship. When you hit the reset button, whatever happened up until that point doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. It's time to learn to forgive. If you lived up until this point without ever making a mistake and you done everything right, good for you. But I haven't. And neither has my children, neither has my spouse, neither has my friends and family. We have to hit the reset button and forget about all that other stuff that would contaminate our relationships and be willing to press forward. When we learn better and we practice better, we're going to get better results. We can't get those results by continuing to drag past issues, past things into our future with us. It's a hindrance. It's not healthy for our relationships. And if your reset button is broken, like somebody just commented here, that's why you have to go back and be willing to do the work on you. You have to. You have to. There's no way around it. I wish I could say I had a quick fix, but I don't. And sometimes time is all we have. And we don't know how much time we have. Life is short, guys. Some things is okay for us to live with, but I can guarantee you we better not die with it. And having a spirit of unforgiveness is one of them. It's gonna contaminate everything we touch. And oftentimes it is that we've been hurt so deeply that we have allowed bitterness to set up. And it's easier for us to just hang on to it It's easy to hang on to what mama did, or what they couldn't do, or the relationship that didn't work out. Guys, I've been there, I've done that. If I could sit here and just take half an hour to tell you some of the evil, controlling, manipulating things that I've done, or that I've thought, or the grudges that I held on to. Fast forward 10, 15 years down the road, guys, that stuff you're hanging on to is not going to even matter. You're going to thank God that those relationships didn't work out. You're going to look back at them and say, what the heck was I thinking? I wanted that? Are you kidding me? I put up with that? Are you kidding me? And then your relationship with the Lord of your life is going to be so much better. Because you're going to realize He orchestrated those steps. That thing or that person that we feel like we have to have right now, 10 or 15 years down the line, every time you look at them and that frown go up, you're going to be thinking, Lord, I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but I sure thank you. I thank you for leading me out of that. If you guys understand what I'm saying, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and leave me some hearts. Because, guys, this is real. Hit that reset button. No way I let something that hurt me continue to hurt me by holding on to a bitter root that God orchestrated for our lives in the first place. Because He didn't mean for us to have it. Do you hear me? If He meant for us to have it, it would be right here with us, guys. Do you think I want you to put me through all the chaos and dysfunction and live with that day after day and then die and go to hell because I couldn't forgive you? I think not. So every day I'm hitting the reset button because whatever happened yesterday, guess what? It doesn't matter today. You don't give people power and control over you. If you want healthier relationships, if it takes everything in you and if you have to lie to yourself 150 times a day to say you forgive them, then you do just that. And if you don't know how to forgive, and if the hurt is so deep, which I believe many of us have been hurt so deep throughout our lives that that's all we know is hurt, then start reading, start researching on people that struggled just like you've struggled and learn what it is to hit the reset button and forgive so that you can have healthier relationships. We're talking tonight about a recipe for building healthier relationships. I'm glad that you thought enough of us to join me tonight. Go ahead and hit that like button, like and share this video. We're up to number 8. Number 8, keep your circle small and healthy. Keep your circle small and healthy. If you want healthier, intimate relationships, everybody can't be involved in that. Everybody can't play along. Everybody can't go alone. So that means not involving people or too many people into your disagreements, into issues that bother you, into your own perception of what something is. Because here's what we do. We have an issue with something, and instead of communicating that issue with our partners, we go and we tell our friends, or we hang out with the ladies and we have a male bashing party, or vice versa. And you can see where the problem is, because our friends love and are concerned about us. So if it bothers us, guess who else it's going to bother? Now it bothers them. So now when you've made up or gotten over that situation with your partner, your friend or your loved one that you shared that issue with still holds the grudge because they still believe that you're hurt, or they're still in protective mode. Do you see how that can do harm to your relationship? So now when they interact with your children, or they interact with your spouse or your significant other, they don't look at them the same way because of what you shared with them. So you have to be in a situation where you're keeping those who you allow in and that you are sharing intimate relationship issues with. You have to keep that circle small. And not only that, they have to be more understanding that just because you have an issue or that you're upset with that time, at that time that you shared that information with them about, that you're just venting. That's your way of venting. You don't desire for them to choose or to pick sides, because that's not fair. It's not fair that they have to choose or to pick sides when you share something with them that bothered you, because at the end of the day, you probably didn't get your way. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Thank you for leaving me comments in the comments section. I'm sharing with you tonight a recipe for building healthier relationships. So if you like what I'm saying, go ahead and hit those heart buttons at this time. Let me know that you're here with me and that you understand what I'm saying. If you have a question or a comment, go ahead and leave it in the comment section and I'll be sure to address that with you guys. Number 9, lead by example and model the desired behaviors. Lead by example and model the desired behaviors. So if I desire to have a relationship with more respect, then I first have to model that respect. And I have to do it and do it and do it until it becomes second nature. And it may take the other person in that relationship longer and longer and longer to grasp it, but eventually it'll sink in. Remember, we don't nag. Nagging won't do it. We have to model the behaviors that we desire. So if you desire a more respectful lines of communication, then you have to initiate it. You have to lead by example. You have to. Remember, we can't escape us. And the only one that we control in any relationship is ourselves. So we lead by example. Not nag. We lead by example. So whatever you desire from your child and they're not giving it to you, then you have to reevaluate yourself, not the child. You want a healthier communication or a healthier relationship with your spouse? We lead by example. What can we do better? What behaviors can we model so that I can get the results that I need? And they're probably not going to change overnight. But we're the ones that we have to give an account for. Right? We're the ones. Number 10, Practice every day the things that are important to you. So there's no one size fits all in this, building healthy relationships. Because we judge our relationships by our experiences. Our thoughts and our mindsets are influenced by our experiences, good or bad. So we have to put into practice those things that we desire. So if I want more respect from my spouse, I'm giving respect. And he could be full of hell and everything else. I still have to give that respect because I know better. And I have to give an account for me. Do you know that our actions should not be dictated by the action of somebody else? Our actions, how we respond, should not be dictated and dependent on the actions of somebody else. So if I desire respect, then everything I do when I'm interacting with that person that I'm in a relationship with should model respect. If you're in a relationship with an alcoholic or a drunk or somebody who's addicted or someone who doesn't have behaviors to where they're settled or mature in their activities, if we're nagging, one question for you. How's that going in getting that behavior to change? Probably not very good at all. You're probably getting more of the same reactions or behaviors, right? So if we could practice finding one thing positive that they do right and that they do well and focus on that and talk about that and build them up with that, how much more better is your relationship probably going to be over time? Because nagging somebody, they know when they're wrong. They know their hang-ups. They know all this. They don't need us to keep reminding them of this. And not only that, when we're focused on them things, think about your mindset at that point. Think about all the emotions that are involved in that, focusing on the wrongdoing, reacting to what somebody else does. And think about how much less it takes out of us if we can make up our mind that we're going to practice and model what's important to us. I've just shared with you tonight a recipe for building a healthier relationship. I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation tonight. If you have any questions at all, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section. I'll be sure to address them. And if you didn't like and share this video, go ahead and do that now at this time. I look forward to visiting with you again tomorrow night, same time, 10 o'clock here at Facebook Live. And if you miss our Facebook Live, you can now catch our videos on demand on our CWF Organization YouTube page or on SoundCloud if you want the audio version of this broadcast on channel for Ann Bray Smith. All right, guys, thank you for making the sacrifice to be here with me tonight. Be sure to tell a friend. We'll be talking again tomorrow about relationships, establishing better relationships. Thank you for joining me. Have a good night.